A powerful assault led by Russian paratrooper and marine infantry slammed into the front line of the areas held by Ukraine's forces in the Russian Federation's Kursk region on Thursday, October 10th, gaining ground and, according to unconfirmed Millblogger reports, putting defending troops to flight. A Russian attack backed by armored vehicles seemed to overwhelm forward positions held by armed forces of Ukraine troops near the villages of Novoivanovka and Zeleny Shliak, and tore a gap around 3 kilometers, 2 miles wide in the western flank of Ukraine's 62.5-mile defensive line, early reports on the assault said. The pro-Ukraine analyst project Deep State reported Russian tanks and armored personnel carriers passed through forward Ukrainian lines to force rear area units to have to become involved in sometimes chaotic combat. It's an extremely terrible day today in the Novoivanovka district. Ukrainian artillerymen and drones had to go into battle, Deep State said, in one of the first accounts by either side of Thursday's substantial local Russian counteroffensive. Ukraine invaded Russia's Kursk region in August, in response to which Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered that the Ukrainian incursion was to be eliminated by October 1st. Kremlin forces were unable to meet that deadline and have still to push Kiev's forces out. Deep State and other pro-Kiev sources on Friday reported that although Ukrainian forces were hard-pressed, they were still managing to effectively resist the attack, and that control of the settlements of Novoivanovka and Zeleny Shliak remained unclear. Both Ukrainian and Russian sources reported chaotic and bloody fighting, with combatants becoming intermixed at times. In the Kursk sector, our troops are in a big mixed salad of forces with corresponding confusion. No matter how bad things sound, the vibe for today is a Ukrainian FPV drone destroying a Russian army tank, Deep State said. In a Friday morning situation, report Russia's Ministry of Defense said that actions were in progress to defeat the enemy group that has wedged itself into the territory of the Kursk region. That official source claimed, without offering evidence, that Russian forces had killed or wounded 200 Ukrainian service personnel over the past 24 hours, captured 5 prisoners of war, and knocked out 3 Ukrainian tanks, an armored combat vehicle, and other equipment. Combat was continuing, the Kremlin official statement said. Some pro-Russian information outlets declared that Ukrainian defenses had collapsed. One Millblogger, Alexei Zhivov, told his 100,000 pro-Russian followers, "It looks like the enemy's front is breaking up in the Kursk region. There are reports of big formations being evacuated. In general, they're running." Other platforms credited 2 veteran Russian fighting units, 15th and 810th Naval Infantry, for leading the assaults. A more obscure and sometimes Kremlin-critical Russian Millblogger Rybar-Z said in a Friday post that advanced Russian troops in Zeleny Shliak had managed a partial breakthrough along the 38K30 secondary road. Control over Zeleny High will allow Russian troops to block enemy supply lines through Route 38K-030, which plays an important role in the logistics of the Ukrainian armed force, the post said. "Our guys are fighting hard," both Russian and Ukrainian military information platforms reported further, supporting Russian attacks to the northeast of Zeleny High near the town of Olgovka and the village of Sorochina on Friday. By midday, the scale and progress of those assaults was not clear. The Ukrainian Millblogger and combat officer callsign Alexei, citing combat reports, said Russian forward movement had been stopped at all locations. The Russians are pushing more and more cannon fodder and armor into the battle, but they aren't trying to advance anymore. They're trying to hold on to what they've taken while our guys' Ukrainian forces are grinding them down. I can't say anything about attack columns or operational encirclements. Let's not get ahead of things. But the situation looks like it's been reversed, and so far the news on Friday looks positive, he said. Azeri military analyst Agil Rustamzadeh said the situation in the Kursk sector was still chaotic, and that it was neither clear that Russian forces had broken through, nor that Ukrainian forces had halted Moscow's attacks. "I think that objective control data will be available soon, and everything will become clear," Rustamzadeh said in a Friday Telegram post. Ukraine's Army General Staff, AGS, in its daily situation report on Friday, made almost no mention of action in the Kursk sector or the violent battles currently in progress there, saying only, The operation of the defense forces of Ukraine in the Kursk region continues. Ukrainian Armed Forces Commander Oleksandr Syrsky, in a pre-recorded video published by the state-run news and information platform Spilny on Thursday evening, said that Ukrainian Army intelligence currently estimates the Kremlin has concentrated 50,000 men in the Kursk sector in readiness for a major counter-offensive. The Ukrainian incursion into Russia has reduced pressure on other sectors of the front by forcing Russian armed forces leadership to shift troops back into Russia to take on the Ukrainian incursion, Syrsky said. Ukrainian forces inside Russia were substantial, and the Kremlin could neither ignore them nor attack them without assembling a major force, he argued. By early afternoon on Friday, Deep State, citing reports from the front, offered a somewhat calmer evaluation of the Kursk sector and the situation there. The situation in the Kursk region remains difficult, but under control. It was a difficult and tense night. Ukrainian troops are carrying out local counterattacks, but it has not yet been possible to regain control over everything that was lost. The enemy suffered considerable losses during the assault, so it will be difficult for them to gain a foothold. Russian forces commits another war crime. They again dropped loitering munitions on clearly visible regular civilians in Kherson. Putin is losing its cannon fodder fast. Russia's Samara region is set to nearly double the one-time payment for soldiers signing contracts with the Ministry of Defense, increasing it from 1.2 million rubles to 2 million rubles, about $20,000. The original sum, announced in July 2024, has now been significantly raised in just 4 months, reflecting a sharp increase in financial incentives for military service. Samara, a relatively remote region with lower living costs compared to Western Russia, has become a focal point for these recruitment efforts. This sharp increase suggests growing challenges for the Russian military in attracting new recruits.